Hi, welcome back to Aunt Anna's Kitchen. I know the very first video I made, I taught you guys to make marinara. So today, last night I was telling my husband I was finally going to get to the meatballs. And he said, oh great, are we having spaghetti and meatballs tonight? I wasn't planning on that, but I was just planning on teaching the meatballs. But I whipped up a quick marinara. And I used a few different products than I used last time, because a lot of you had questions. You can use crushed tomatoes. You can also use Palmy, which is an Italian brand. It's already chopped. Just add it to the pot. These tomatoes, you can see, have sea salt. Remember, taste the tomatoes. Just follow the exact thing. Taste your tomatoes. If they need salt, add it. If they don't, no problem. I happen to put in this time onions and garlic, no shallots, because I didn't have shallots. And the last video I made, I had all these beautiful ripe tomatoes sitting in this bowl. Well, guess what? They got overripe. I cut them up and I roasted them. And today, I'm going to use my immersion blender to liquefy them. Oh, plugging it in is always helpful. You need to plug it in order to use the immersion blender. Just a quick immersion. We'll turn these into a nice, almost looks like a tomato jam, huh? And I'm going to dump this, since it's been roasted on high heat in the oven. Let's put that over in the sink. I'm going to put this right in with my sauce. So nothing is ever wasted. You never want to waste a good vine-ripened tomato. There is nothing better than that. So, on to the meatballs. Meatballs. A few little things about meatballs. I only use ground beef. Lots of people like to use sausage, but I grind my own sausage with my father. I make my own sausage, and I don't put it in my meatballs. I prefer it separate in my sauce. So, today I'm starting with 2 pounds. You can actually cut this recipe in half and use 1 pound. Or you can do what I do, make a lot at one time and freeze some. So the meat I've started with meat. The next thing going in is, I like garlic. I have 2 nonas. One of my grandmothers came from Palermo, in Sicily. The other nona came from a place called Umbria, the Umbria region of Italy. In Italy, they cook different every region you go to. So I learned 2 very different ways to make everything. One nona soaked the bread in the milk and put it in the meatballs, and they turned out great. I found out I wasn't very good at that. Number one, I lived all over the world, and I always couldn't get the kind of bread I needed to soak. She soaked the good old-fashioned white bread, which was hard to find in many places I lived. So I adapted with breadcrumbs, and that's what I use in my meatballs. So the garlic in meatballs needs to be squeezed. You don't want big chunky pieces of garlic in your meatball. You want to know what's in there and have the flavor. So to do this, you need a garlic press. They're available everywhere now. Every place, from Walmart to Bed Bath & Beyond, any kitchen store will have them. I think there's a catalog company that sells them at home stores that has a really nice one. I've used that one before. For 2 pounds of meat, I'm going to use about 4 or 5 cloves. But here's the deal. If your cloves are this big, you don't need that many. If your cloves vary so greatly in size when you buy them at the grocery store, you could end up with only tasting garlic. Not the best thing. You want to actually taste the meat, and you don't want the meatballs to flavor your sauce to taste like garlic. So looking in my bowl now, you'll see that this is about how much garlic I'm going to use for a couple pounds. That's the garlic. This bad boy, he's so big, we're going to put him aside for another day. The next thing I'm putting in is fresh herbs. Back to the fresh herb thing. In meatballs, it matters. If you have fresh parsley and basil, it gives the meat such a nice taste. If you don't, which I know not everybody grows it, you can use dried. Moisten it, just like I said before. Although in these meatballs there's some moisture going in that's going to surprise everybody at the end. Chop your herbs. Remember what I said about my knife skills. They are not the best knife skills, so rough chop your herbs. I don't want to bite into a gigantic piece of basil or parsley inside my meatball. So I like to get it a little bit on the finer side, but it all depends on how much of a hurry I'm in. If I'm in a big hurry and need to get dinner done, trust me, big pieces of herbs are going in everything. And I'll worry about that later. So this, I use my hands. This is about the amount of herbs I want for this particular 2 pounds of meat. And 2 eggs per pound of meat, no matter what kind of meat you use. If you want to use veal, if you want to use pork, you want to mix it up with turkey. I suggest though, if you use turkey and decide to make it a little healthier, you add onions. Turkey needs moisture. There's not enough fat. I used 93% fat beef. And because of that, guess what? I'm going to add olive oil. Because I like olive oil in everything. I think olive oil makes everything taste better. So, I added an amount, maybe a couple tablespoons of olive oil. But once you start feeling it, you'll get the idea. Okay, I'm putting just a skosh amount of salt because I'm using Romano cheese. And Romano cheese, especially Locatello Romano, which is my favorite. People say that cheeses don't matter. This one matters. This one costs more. This one elevates the taste of everything. It is an excellent, excellent cheese. So, pepper. Let's go to pepper. Pepper, remember, my family likes pepper. So we're gonna pepper. It may stick because I've got the gloves, but we're okay. There we go. And you'll see more as I start to mix this up. I'm gonna add the cheese. That's one, so if I add 1 cup of Romano per pound, I need 2 cups of Romano. And I don't like the breadcrumbs and the cheese to be equal. I like the cheese to be more. I think I like to have more cheese. Let's say not the cheese to be more, but I like more cheese in my meatballs than I actually like breadcrumbs in my meatballs. And like I've said before about many other things, don't eat bread, leave it out. You might have a slightly different texture, nothing that will matter. Okay, 1 cup, and let's talk about breadcrumbs. I don't buy anybody else's flavoring in anything. If I want my breadcrumbs to have flavor, I add it. So I try to stay with plain breadcrumbs when I add something, because I don't know how much salt, how much pepper, how much whatever they've added. So those are my ingredients, my major ingredients. And another thing about meatballs is you don't want to overmix meatballs. You don't want to manipulate meat so much that you made it tough, right? At least that's what everybody has said, and that's how my grandmothers did it. Although one grandmother, you know, she had all that soaking bread in there and they were delicious, and the other grandmother put in breadcrumbs and they were delicious. So I adapted it to what was easiest for me. And where I've never ever soaked bread and put it in there because the whole thought of it was, well, anyway, on to the breadcrumbs. Okay, so you've got this made. I need to rinse my hands real quick. This is an ingredient that is so necessary for tender meatballs. I'm going to start with 2 cups of just water. I just use room temperature water, not particularly cold, not particularly hot, and I slowly add it in. So you'll see the meat change as I add the water in. This is going, when you're done, when you've finished, and you've come up with your meatball, remember, yours may have onions, yours may have more garlic, yours may have less garlic, yours may be made with turkey or veal. Now this is what I want to see, is like a light pink color. once I get it here, we are almost done. And what did I say? I know some people think that this is makes you sick. I've been doing it all my life. I always taste the meat. If I don't taste the meat, how do I know if I left something out? Which happens occasionally because I'm a little unorganized. But that tastes great. And so we're done. We can move a lot of this stuff away. I bake my meatballs. Probably both my nonas are rolling over in their graves because they fried them in oil and they got a nice crunchy skin on the outside of them. And I'd come home from school and get one on a fork and it was wonderful. But I don't fry anything in my house hardly except zucchini flowers, which I make a big exception for. I scoop my meatballs and I bake them. And remember all the oil we put in there? It's not necessary to grease the pan. If you like big meatballs, if you like kind of big meatballs, but maybe you're making a hoagie or a submarine sandwich, this size. This is the size I like, sometimes even smaller. I would rather have more meatballs with more sauce, less meat, more sauce. So I scoop them and I do it just like this. In the scoop, onto the pan. Can it be easier than this? I don't roll them. I don't take any time to roll them because sometimes when I'm cooking at the church, I make 900 meatballs. And that's a lot of meatballs, 900 meatballs. So you just keep going, scooping them. I preheated my oven to 425. I like them to cook kind of quick. I don't always finish them the whole way either. Sometimes I take them out just before they're done. I do not want them dry inside because they will finish cooking on the counter and they will definitely finish cooking in your sauce. And if you're not going to put them in sauce, they will still finish cooking enough for you to eat them. If you're worried about that, please use a meat thermometer. I'm not usually worried about it. I would prefer to grind my own beef, but it is when I'm trying to, well, everybody was writing and asking for the meatballs, so I was in a hurry. I didn't want to get into the whole meat grinding thing. That's a whole nother level of cooking, which is not necessary, but I enjoy doing it because it's my thing, because I get my joy from cooking. So as you can see, this is 2 pounds of meat, and let's see, we've made a dozen so far, so maybe we'll make about 2 dozen of these. And while I'm scooping, just so you can see something, this is what I do with my meatballs. I bake them, then I use a food saver, and I suck the air out of them. If I'm not going to use them all that night, which usually I'm not, I have 2 boys, 2 young men actually. One is 24 and one is 26. And they know when they come by my house, they can pick up a pack of those meatballs, use a can of crushed tomatoes, throw in a few spices and some garlic, and have spaghetti and meatballs or penne and meatballs. It's all a very, it's I don't know how you say it. It's just easy. User-friendly. To do it with a scoop, you know they're all the same size. They're all going to cook in about the same amount of time, right? I scoop a lot of things. Anything, for as much as I don't measure, this I measure. And I think, let's see, we'll have a few more to go. I wanted to talk to you guys about something I did not talk to you about last time, and that was this spice hot shot. This is one of my favorite spices. It goes in everything. I did not put it in the meatballs because I don't want to complicate the recipe when I'm just starting this teaching. But if I were making it at home alone, I probably would have put it in the recipe. It is a combination of cayenne and of black pepper. And if you use a lot of it, yes, it will make your food spicy. But if you use a little of it, it will just give your food that something that makes it taste better, but you're not sure what it is, and it will not be spicy. It just makes it, what is in this, especially in any kind of sauce, any kind of cheese, any kind of, even your marinara. Remember, back to my family, you know, all men in this family, so it's all about the heat. They would prefer I put jalapenos in here, but they're not. And into a 425-degree oven. I'm gonna take off my glove so I don't filthy up the kitchen. I like to do them on the top shelf. I always put them on for 15 minutes and then I check. So, today it was meatballs. I'm gonna show them to you when they're done. But in the meantime, I'm gonna show them to you what they would look like if you decide that you too wanna make the meatballs and save them. I try to use a food saver that has a moist setting. And the reason I do is because it saves some of the moisture that comes out of the pan with the meatball, and this helps flavor the sauce. So when you're looking for a plain vegetarian clean sauce, then you know what? No, you don't need any of the excess stuff off of the meat. But when these go in the sauce and cooked, this will be Ken's spaghetti and meatballs tonight. And I like to put, you can see, it will kind of, a little bit it will stick, you know, a little bit to the meat. And just slowly cook it down. And they will be tender, delicious, yummy. Unfortunately, we can't taste these, but the next time you come to me or come back on the page today, I will have the tray of meatballs to show you what they're done cooked. I'm trying to keep these short. So once again, it's Aunt Anna. I'm doing it for my nieces and nephews. I'm hoping you're loving it. Ciao. Hey, welcome back to Aunt Anna's. Because I'm not very good at this camera stuff, I am showing you now they're finished. And this is what they look like. I'll get a good look at how, you can see how the cheese and the fat has bubbled up in here. So follow me back here and I'm gonna break one open to show you. I use a, come on in close please. I use a Nordic ware pan. They're made in the United States. They are the most fantastic pans. Nothing sticks to them. But this is how your meatball should come out. Remember, it is not finished cooking. It will continue to cook as it sits here. It's certainly, though, finished enough for me to taste it. And it is phenomenal. So yummy. Cheesy. Fresh herbs. I can taste all the garlic. Very, very good. So, this is the product that I take with my food saver and make into this. Remember, I put some of the other ones in the pan, but because my husband will know, I'm going to put a few fresh ones out of the oven. Now, these are a little bigger than the last ones I made, but they're still the perfect size. And I want you to see this. This is Nordic ware. It also is available at all cooking stores. I'm pretty sure Walmart carries it, Target. These pans are not expensive and you need a few. This one will make about a dozen. We saw this one made a couple dozen, maybe a little over even a couple dozen. Anyway, so I'm Aunt Anna. Ciao from my kitchen to yours. Have a great day.